Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered. Name is Dr. Shaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And I do all my engineering. So if there's ever, some mix up, some fumbles, some stumbles, it's me. I take full responsibility. It's just me and you having this conversation about the news, about things that are going on in the world. So I may not do all of 7 to 9. I'm just used to saying 7 to 9 because that's what I was doing, but my internet, um, it's interesting. So I'm using the internet as long as it doesn't go weird or go sideways. Just I want a good experience for those who are my subscribers and viewing out there, and I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers, so I'm really excited, very close to being monetized. It seems like it's forever. It's like, "Okay, I'm right here," and it's like watching paint dry. I'm just like, "Can I get the 1,000, please? Can I get 2 more people to subscribe to my channel?" So I'm at 1,000 subscribers. So it's really exciting. So let's start off our morning with trending topics on X. Now, I came across this, I guess maybe late last week in Tennessee. Um, the Democrat with the afro, he's very interesting. Um, because he thinks, I guess, the afro is supposed to be significant now. If you wear an afro, like I guess you're just like a whole black person or something. It's weird. Okay. It's really weird. But apparently, Gunther Eagleman writes, FAFO in Tennessee. Tennessee Speaker of the House just stripped every Democrat lawmaker who acted like thugs and trashed the chamber during redistricting of all their committee assignments. This is how to fight back. Well done. Okay, look, just it's unreasonable. What do you want? So you want to be respected, but you want to disrespect people. And if you were disrespected in that way, oh my gosh, let the heavens fall, right? Let the heavens fall because people would be in an uproar if a Caucasian man spoke to a black man that way, but a black man spoke to a Caucasian man that way, and everybody's like, "Ooh." I'm like, "Really?" He's an officer, period. I think yeah, they have, like, sheriffs of the court in a lot of these chambers. So, shenanigans don't go on. It's just so disrespectful. It's just very disrespectful. And I found this other one. It says, "A man accidentally walks into the scene while they are filming for the hantavirus." You can't make this stuff up. I don't think it has sound now. Oh, he walked right through. It was like, not a care in the world, like, "What are y'all doing?" And then there's somebody else. He hasn't even put on his suit yet, and they're filming. Let's spray everybody down now." What are you doing? Really? Really? And this is how we get ants. Okay. Yeah, and this is how you get ants. This is how you get nonsense going on. Really? People just walk it's almost like it reminds you like the hurricanes. I forget, the gentleman, I used to listen to him a lot. He says people would put on their hurricane drag, and they'd be standing, and, like, there'd be a not even a hard wind, and then people will be, like, walking behind them with their dogs in, like, the shorts, going, "What is wrong with you? What's going on?" That's what this reminds me of. Complete nonsense. Nobody's going for this anymore. Nobody's going for this, but they're gonna continue to try. That's all I can say. They're gonna continue to try. They need the hysteria because with the hantavirus, there is not a known cure and there isn't any medication for it. But I can guarantee you they're more than likely using some type of antibiotics because it's bacterial. It is not viral. So when you have something that's viral, you pretty much have to wait it out, right? Um, let's see, head cold, just common head cold. You're not going to take antibiotics for a common head cold because it is a virus. It is going to pass. You might get the fever, aches, pains, your stomach might hurt, you might throw up. You know what I mean? Like it's very basic, very general. It is a virus, but they will not give you antibiotics for a virus because there isn't anything bacterial. There isn't an infection going on. It's a virus. It's going to pass. The hantavirus creates infection because it can get into your respiratory, it can get into your lungs, right? That's bacterial. That isn't viral. It can't spread. It's not airborne. It's only airborne through ducts from nasty, nasty, nasty people who would leave rodent droppings and rodent urine in air ducts. So let's talk about the ship where people got the hantavirus. Y'all are nasty. Okay? That's all I can say. You're charging people thousands of dollars to be on this boat with rats and mice. That's disgusting. Y'all are nasty. Okay? So I need all of the boat people, all the cruise ship people, clean out your boats because if you have rats and mice on your boats, you're nasty. It's called pest control. They have, you can pay for it and get it done. My goodness. With that, let's get a little bit of an update on the hantavirus from Melanie King.
A hantavirus update. There are now 5 people, yes, 5 people that are being monitored for having the Andes hantavirus version, meaning the person to person spreading. It goes back to person to person. Well, these 5 people were never on that cruise ship. Yes. So 5 people who are secondary contacts, they say most likely from a flight, well, now here in the US, they are being monitored. What's weird is they say they have no symptoms in some reports, in other reports it says they do. But if they didn't have symptoms, why would these 5 be monitored, or they're like trying to watch and test and see if they have it if they don't have symptoms? Because there's hundreds of secondary contacts just in the US, maybe more than that. But around the world, there's like dozens of probably over 1,000 at this point. But hundreds of secondary contacts. But these 5 are the only ones, even though they say they have no symptoms, are being tested and monitored. And was able to find some reports that said that they had some symptoms. It's very bizarre, guys. None of it makes any sense. But these people are 2 from New Jersey, 2 from Maryland, and 1 from California. So make of that what you will. Okay, I want to
Well,
give you a hantavirus update.
what I can say from that is you've got them in places, and they're democratically run, where you can cause panic. Period. They're going to use the PCR test because, see, the PCR test will give you whatever outcome you want, even if it's a false positive. It will do what you want it to do. It is not an accurate test. It's not. But they need to cause panic. They need to cause all these questions. And so I found a video with an ex CDC director, and he was talking about the hantavirus. So I really wanted us to hear from him.
Being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
So President Trump is on his way to Beijing, his first trip to China in 9 years. It's the first time the president will be in China since the COVID pandemic. He's continued to talk about the Wuhan lab origin theory. Do you think he'll bring it up as part of his trip and getting the truth about the pandemic from the Chinese side, which we know has covered up and erased doctors, et cetera, as a result of the pandemic?
You know, Katie, I don't know whether he will bring it up. I think it's very clear now that the origins of this virus was, in fact, the laboratory. It was not part of nature in the wet market. That was always a ruse. So, but I don't know if he's going to bring it up or not. I just don't know.
Do you think he should bring it up? Do you think there should be a discussion point during the trip so it doesn't happen again?
I've always felt that the only way we're going to get everyone to understand the real reality that this virus came from scientific research, which was done in that laboratory, and as you know, funded by the United States, a variety of groups in the U.S., and actually in collaboration with U.S. scientists, would be for the Chinese government to basically come out and acknowledge that. And I'm still optimistic that eventually will happen. I don't know if President Trump will be able to suggest that that would be advantageous for the world for us to move on and get that out. So I just don't know the answer, Katie.
Speaking of viruses, I want to get your response to this new hantavirus outbreak. Dozens of Americans are being quarantined and monitored after being exposed on a cruise. We also learned that the Kansas Health Department is monitoring 3 people with high-risk exposure, whatever that might mean. There's a lot of people really freaked out about this. Should they be, or should they just, let these people come off the cruise, get better, and go on with their lives?
Yeah, this is not a COVID-like pathogen. And the problem with COVID when it came in, and I was the CDC director, we didn't know anything about how this virus interacts with the human being, right? It was brand new, it was novel. These hantaviruses have been around for a long time. I spent a long time in the U.S. military, and actually one of the major outbreaks we had was at the Korean War, where mice and rat droppings get into the soil, and when the helicopters came in and they agitated it up in the air, then soldiers would breathe it in as they were getting off the helicopters, and they would get infected with what we called at the time Korean hemorrhagic fever, which was a hantavirus. We've had hantaviruses for a long time. You probably remember the Four Corners disease that we had in the Utah, Arizona area, Colorado, and New Mexico coming together. We have hantaviruses that are in rodents in many of our cities, including Baltimore. It's just a virus that doesn't infect humans. Right. And of course, the virus that's involved here, the Andes variant, is different than the other hantaviruses in that it has been to be able to go from human to human.
Right.
There is an outbreak in Argentina. It's been going on since last July. They've had over 100 infections. They've had over 35% of those to 40% of those people have died, unfortunately. So, but we have a lot of experience here, and I'm pretty confident that the CDC and the public health community has got the right response. And we may see a couple more cases because of secondary spread, and exposure, like you talked to the Kansas City people.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a dead end outbreak, literally within days.
Yeah, we're glad to hear that. But let's get to some breaking news from earlier today. Dr. Marty Makary resigned from his position as FDA commissioner. There's been a lot of reports and accusations about a so-called tumultuous relationship with the White House and within the FDA. You've also heard that he was actually pushing up against pharmaceutical companies, and we talked to him last week, and he said a lot of drugs that shouldn't be getting approved are not getting approved, so they're dropping hit pieces on me in the Wall Street Journal. What do you think happened here, since it's not yet clear?
You know, I don't know, Katie. I have a lot of respect for Marty Makary.
Yes,
I think he was doing a good job. I know that when I took over CDC, it was complicated, but most of the people at CDC felt if they'd outlast me because, they've been there. They've been there for years, and they were going to outlast me. And it took a long time to start winning them over. I think I helped win them over because I could speak their language, science. I think Marty was trying to do a good thing. He's trying to do change, but I don't think he had, the rank and file behind him, unfortunately. And I think it's disappointing because I think he was really making effective change. I don't think it's healthy for, personally, the president to have his senior people turning over at the rate that they're turning over now. I mean, we couldn't keep the CDC director. Now we're losing the head of the FDA. We've lost we lost the attorney general. We've lost
and then the actings have to come in and get started too. So it's almost like they have to start over with those people you just described.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation.
Yeah. So he's saying it's a dead end. Yeah. Because he just told you how people were contracting it because it was agitation with the mice at the time in Korea, and it flew into their air passages. So it's not airborne. It's only airborne with assistance of air, right? So if it's in a duct, right, in your home or in a hotel or whatever, you could contract this, but it's bacterial. That's the part that they don't finish. It's not a virus. And the only people you could pass it to is somebody you have very, very close contact with, like bodily fluid contact. And even then, it's still sketchy, right? Who's messing around with somebody who has over 100 fever? Anyways, it's weird. It's going to be over. It's going to burn off. And yeah, the pandemic drag, they need to take it off and they need to stop with this nonsense. It's really crazy. And so the next thing I wanted to get to is Real America Voice. They covered, I guess DHS had uncovered 10,000 student fraud ghost jobs. So apparently there were foreign students who came, they got jobs, right? Somebody got a government contract for it, but they really weren't working. So let's get more into this.
Way to China to meet with Xi Jinping, China's leader. The news keeps coming out about foreign influence in our political system, especially from the Chinese Communist Party. We also have more news to get to on the fraud prevention front. The Department of Homeland Security has identified, you ready for this, 10,000 foreign students working for what they term highly suspect employees. In other words, ghost jobs. The latest new ring of fraud that we are now seeing. A DHS spokesman said that this was only the tip of the iceberg, and that followed up that by saying that they've discovered empty buildings and locked doors at addresses where hundreds of these foreign students were supposed to be employed. Does that sound familiar? Kind of like child care facilities that didn't exist? Yeah, the pattern is becoming more clear. The fraud isn't a bug, it was a feature of the system. Now, this is all related to the optional Practical Training Program, which is a work authorization for students here on foreign visas. The program, along with the H-1B visa program, has drawn intense scrutiny from immigration hawks who have long contended that it is ridden with fraud. It looks like they may have been right all along.
Okay. So it's just continuing. The rabbit hole with this fraud is just continuing. And like I said before, just stop paying people. Stop giving them money. Stop giving money to any and all services. All of them. If there is a government contract that has fallen under certain types of scrutiny, stop the payments. Daycares, autism, these ghost student jobs, H-1B visas. Just stop pressing the button. Stop giving people money. They will start hollering and you'll be like, okay, turn over your records. We got to do an audit. Not self-auditing. We need to do an audit to make sure you are doing what you're supposed to do. Because if you weren't, we're clawing back the money and you are no longer going to have this contract. Period. Yeah, you would see immediate outrage. It would be crazy, be insane. Now, this is something that has been gaining some traction. Interestingly enough, I guess a congressman in Florida, he wants foreigners out of Congress.
Fine recently introduced the Disqualifying Dual Loyalty Act, which is some legislation that would essentially require folks who want to run for or serve in Congress to renounce any foreign citizenship. So it would ban those who have a citizenship other than the United States from serving. And so joining us live now to talk about this is Congressman Randy Fine, Republican from Florida. Congressman Fine, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus today.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, I just talked with us about your bill, why this was something that you felt was important to file and what you want people to know about it.
Well, one of the things that shocked me when I got to Congress a year ago is there were dozens of members of Congress that could actually be foreigners that are serving in the American government. When you cannot serve two masters, and if you swear an oath to another country to put that country first, you should not be serving in Congress. And so I filed a bill a few months ago that would say that only Americans can serve in Congress. Now, most people are going to be shocked. Why is a bill like this necessary? I had the same reaction, but it turns out if you're a citizen of other countries, you can serve in the Congress of the United States. And my bill makes it very clear. You can only serve in Congress if you're an American citizen and only an American citizen.
Congressman, is this a problem? Is this something that we have seen before? Are there currently members of Congress serving who are dual citizens?
Well, one of the shocking things is we don't know how many there are because you're not required to disclose it. We know there are 36 members of Congress who at one time were citizens of another country, at least because they were born somewhere else. Now, that doesn't mean they may have come to the United States. They may have become naturalized citizens and they may have renounced their old citizenship. But we have a member of Congress whose parents are from Guatemala, for example, who has said, I am Guatemalan before I am American. We've had Ilhan Omar talk about how she is from Somalia and that her focus is on benefiting Somalia. So we know there are at least 30 members of Congress who could be dual citizens, who are eligible to be dual citizens, plus many more who may have naturalized into the citizenship of other countries. And when you see members of Congress take policy positions that are actually intended to hurt the United States or to support our enemies, like Pramila Jayapal, who's working with Cuba, an enemy of the United States. She is someone who was Indian, may still be an Indian citizen. This is cause for concern. So the bill should be simple. Only Americans can serve in Congress, not foreigners.
Congressman, are you targeting these with this bill these members of Congress who you've highlighted, who we know you have stark political disagreements with?
No, they're just examples. But I am targeting any member of Congress who is a citizen of a foreign nation. The fact is, we don't know who all of them are. To Florida's credit, actually, Florida passed a bill during the last legislative session that will require anyone running for Congress to disclose on their qualifying paperwork if they are a citizen of another country. So at least in Florida, for this election, we will know who's running, who's also a foreigner.
What has reception to this bill been like? Is there a possibility that it passes?
Well, I think the reaction has been twofold. One is shock. Like, wait, what? Foreigners can serve in Congress? Citizens of other nations can serve in Congress? People are amazed that this is allowed to happen. And then the second thing is, well, this needs to be done ASAP. Foreigners should not be able to serve in the Congress of the United States, whether they're Republican or Democrat. What I would make clear, though, is that anyone who's currently a dual citizen could serve in Congress. They just need to renounce their citizenship of that other country and make clear that the only nation that they've sworn an oath to is the United States, which begs this question. If you refuse to renounce your loyalty to another country, how can you be loyal to ours, and how can you serve in our government?
Congressman, you talk about saying that members of Congress should not be serving two masters. You can make the argument that the same could be said about special interests and lobbyists as well when it comes to serving two masters. Is that, do you think, a more pressing problem than this?
Well, I don't really understand your question. A member of Congress, if they are also a lobbyist, will go to jail. So
no, I'm not saying.
I don't think that's an issue.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they are serving as a lobbyist as well. But when we're talking about the impact of special interest, money and lobbyists influencing the work of members of Congress, do you see that as an issue, kind of similarly to where members of Congress are often perceived as serving two masters?
No, I mean, I meet with dozens of people in my office each week. Some of them are constituents, some of them are interest groups. That's part of the job, to listen to people out. But if your implication is members of Congress accepting money as part of doing their duties, I would point two things out. Number one, personally accepting money as a member of Congress is a crime. It gets you sent to jail, as it should. And any campaign contribution a member of Congress would get is publicly disclosable, where anyone can look it up and see what they are. Part of the issue we have on the bill that I'm talking about is we don't actually know who the dual citizens are. We know that there are more than 30 who at one time were citizens of another country, but we don't know how many remain.
And the other thing that he's not maybe bringing up, or just maybe not aware of, that there are allegedly members of Congress that are dual citizens of Israel. So is that going to be an issue? I'm just saying, he's starting here, but he's not bringing it up.
We don't know how many were naturalized by their parents. We don't know how many have taken other oaths, but we do have members of Congress who make it clear that they serve other countries before the United States. I just have a simple solution. You can only be a member of Congress if you're only a citizen of the United States.
Well, Congressman Fine, if we could like to ask you a couple of questions about a couple of other topics as well here. We heard President Trump today say in the Oval Office that the ceasefire with Iran is on life support. Your take on where things stand right now and with negotiations with that country?
Well, I'm not surprised. Look, when you're dealing with Muslim religious leaders who are terrorists, you have to keep that in mind. And Iran has been level set for decades on trying to get a nuclear weapon that they could use to attack the United States. They have thus far refused to give up their ambitions to nuke the United States. And so I understand why President Trump is frustrated. Any deal with Iran that does not eliminate their ability to get a nuclear weapon and deliver that nuclear weapon to the United States will be a challenge, because that's really where our interests are with Iran, is making sure they cannot attack us with a nuclear weapon.
We also know that affordability is on the mind of a lot of voters here in Florida and across the country, really. And we keep hearing from the president that gas prices specifically will come down when the war is over. But if there's really no indication right now of when that conflict might end, what is your message to your constituents here in Central Florida who may be struggling right now and are shelling out a lot every time they have to go to the pump and want to know more about the value of this?
Well, it's certainly an issue. Look, we saw this when gas prices under Joe Biden were far higher than they are today. We see that issue now. I think two things. Number one is as much as it stinks to pay an extra dollar or $1.50 per gallon of gasoline right now, and that's not a good thing. We have to think about the cost of a nuclear bomb going off in Miami or Orlando or Jacksonville or Washington, D.C. It would destroy our country. And this is what we're dealing with right now. The second thing is I'd point out we are really focused on doing things to make America more affordable by deporting every single illegal immigrant in America. The single largest driver of unaffordability in the United States is illegal immigrants. They drive up our housing prices. They drive up our insurance prices. They drive up our healthcare costs. They drive up our education prices. So as we continue to deport millions and millions and millions of foreigners who shouldn't be in our country, that will do far more to make America affordable than gas prices coming down by $1 a gallon.
But if this continues, are you concerned about potentially what this could mean for you and fellow Republicans in the midterms?
Well, I don't see this going on until November. I mean, I think the president has shown an extraordinary amount of patience with these Muslim religious leaders who run Iran. And I think that patience is coming to an end. And I think the challenge is to retrieve the nuclear material that they have that could build nuclear weapons today is a difficult process. So the president has gone to great lengths to minimize the violence that would have to be imposed to do that. But he's made very clear Iran will not maintain the capability to have a nuclear weapon. And I think these discussions are going to come to an end one way or another in the very near term.
Last thing here, Congressman Fine, I appreciate your time. You've been generous with it. President Trump telling John Roberts of Fox News earlier today that he's seriously considering making Venezuela the 51st U.S. state. Would you support that?
Well, something I would take a look at. I think it requires an act of Congress to create a 51st state. I think the president's point there is Venezuela is an incredibly resource-rich nation that could really help us. And I think we're already seeing what President Trump's move to remove Maduro did. So that's something the president's serious about. I actually had not heard that quote, but I will take a look at it and we'll see what happens down the road.
Congressman Randy Fine, Republican from Florida's 6th District. We appreciate you joining us here on
And the congressman brought up some great points. Like the fewer people you have, the more businesses have to compete for your dollar, right? Because if there's more resources than people, then resources are going to be cheaper. But if you have more people than resources are going to be higher because they seem scarce. So yes, deporting people will definitely help. Getting out of this conflict will definitely help. You know, we haven't talked about the Keystone Pipeline that is actually back into effect. That's why President Trump keeps saying we do have natural resources already here on the soil. We're kind of good. But you know, controlling OPEC is out of his purview. He can only do so much in those negotiations, and they are a cartel. They admit to being a cartel, and that's what they do. And they are what's driving up the prices of oil outside of the whole straight up Hormuz situation. Yeah, we might have some members of Congress that are dual citizens. You know, again, he didn't bring up the ones that might allegedly be Israeli dual citizens, right? He didn't talk about that. Did not touch on that at all. But I'm glad that the questions did get asked by the reporter. And hello, Fire Halo. Good morning to you as well. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News as we are live. Now, the next article that I wanted to get into, it's here in the state of Georgia. Apparently, Governor Kemp, he signed a new tax cut legislation. My question is, will it actually flow down to the county and city level? Just because something's passed at the state level doesn't necessarily mean the counties or cities will abide by it. So let's see.
Georgia, as the governor, has been working to sign some legislation that is a lot of impact and of interest to people in Georgia, because a lot of this, he says, is directly related to tax cuts, whether we're talking about limiting property taxes or other things that hopefully the governor says will mean more money in your pocket at a time where affordability is the number one conversation almost everybody's having around Georgia and around the country as well. So here's what Governor Kemp and other leaders said earlier this morning before the governor officially signed that legislation.
Let me first by just thanking everybody for being with us. It's an honor for First Lady Marty Kemp and I to be with you all this morning to sign some bills that's going to keep more money in the pockets of hardworking Georgians. I want to I first just want to take a moment to recognize a few folks from the team that are here with us that have been laser focused on delivering for the people of our state. Of course, our Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Speaker of the House, John Burns. Also want to thank the members of the General Assembly. Hey.
They do have fun.
And of course, so many leaders from our state agencies, Revenue Commissioner David Bird's with us this morning, and Budget Director Rick Dunn's with us, Department of Community Affairs, Commissioner Christopher Nunn, just a great team of folks who have been working with the General Assembly on all these issues, and we just want to thank you for all your hard work and careful management of our state revenue that has made days like this possible. And really, I just want to thank all those hardworking Georgians out there who work every single day to promote prosperity statewide and give people opportunities no matter their zip code. If you all remember, in my final State of the State address in January, and again when I signed the amended budget in March that included over $2 billion in income and property tax relief, for us, affordability is not some election year issue that we suddenly discovered. Throughout my time as governor and during the Deal and Perdue administrations, we have never wavered when it comes to cutting taxes, promoting job growth, maintaining a balanced budget, and helping all Georgians succeed no matter their zip code. That's why in 2022, this team enacted the largest income tax cut in state history. It's also why we've been the #1 state for business for 12 consecutive years, breaking jobs and investment records time and time again. And we've done it all while maintaining fiscal responsibility and ensuring we're in a strong position for whatever the future may hold. It is because of that incredible growth and commitment to conservative budgeting that we have been able to take these steps and return money to the hardworking people of our state. And we remain committed to that approach because we believe it is your money, not the government's. The bills I signed today are just the latest example of this enduring commitment. First, I'll sign House Bill 1129, sponsored by one of my floor leaders, Representative Devin Seaball. This bill creates guardrails for state-designated enterprise zones, ensuring they are used responsibly to help communities flourish. Next, I'll sign House Bill 1185, sponsored by Majority Leader Representative Chuck F. Strachan. This bill is a major step forward in keeping Georgia the top state for business. Building on our milestone tort reform efforts from last year, this legislation will ensure businesses can operate in a fair legal environment. Next, I'll sign Senate Bill 33, a House priority spearheaded by Speaker Burns and Chairman Shaw Blackman. We have heard for years about the need for property tax relief in Georgia, and this bill delivers on that issue. I'll then sign Senate Bill 111, a result of Representative Angie Osteen's efforts, which will support our rural health care providers by expanding their access to tax credit eligible contributions. Next, I'll sign House Bill 328, sponsored by Representative Casey Carpenter, the latest in the work by both my administration and the General Assembly to promote educational opportunity. This legislation builds on our efforts to empower parents so that they can choose the educational environment that best meets the needs of their child. This bill expands the Student Scholarship Organization credit while enacting other measures to ensure schools can better serve their students. I'll also sign House Bill 445, sponsored by Representative Chuck Martin, which expands the rights of business owners to appeal tax reassessments of certain high-value, tangible personal property. It also establishes new qualifications and procedures for hearing officers that are handling these appeals. I will then sign House Bill 463, which fulfills my promise of slashing our income tax rate below 5%. It also enacts annual reductions of 0.125% until the rate lowers to just 3.99%, so long as the state meets revenue benchmarks. It also includes measured increases in the standard deduction and dependent deductions, as well as exclusions for retirement income, tips, and overtime. While other states like California and Maryland are raising taxes on their citizens, here in Georgia, we're giving money back to the people. I again want to thank the members of the General Assembly who have stood with us in these efforts and continuously voted to support our fellow hardworking Georgians. I'll then sign House Bill 987, sponsored by Representative Todd Jones, which codifies a voluntary framework for independent contractors to receive portable benefits. And then finally, I'll sign House Bill 1209, sponsored by Representative Ron Stevens. As Savannah continues to grow in attracting business and leisure travelers, this will help ensure our facilities and the hostess city are up to the task of meeting their incredible growth. I'll close by underscoring that everyone here is laser focused on delivering meaningful tax relief for the people of our state, and we'll continue to promote a pro-business economy that allows us to do just that. Days like today are a reminder of what comes from this good work, and I'm grateful to all those who have helped make this happen. With that, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Jones to share a few remarks with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, First Lady, for being here today. And also, I'd like to thank the Speaker Burns. It's been a pleasure working with you, and also our members of the General Assembly, both of the House and the Senate. Thank you all very much for being here today. Look, we were able to accomplish two things that we set out to do early in the session. That was cut the income tax, and that was address property taxes, and we were able to do that. There were some specialty programs that are in there that the governor is going to be signing, particularly the GOLD program, which expands our school choice measure that has been probably one of the most successful programs we've had in the state, and getting parents more options and more choices as far as education is concerned with. So it was a lot of work. It was, it took several months for us to get to a consensus, but with the help of our leadership in both the House and the Senate, I know I see Leader Anna Vitartes here today, as well as I know Blake Tillery, who's the head of appropriations. I'm sure he's on the campaign trail right now, but he worked very hard on this, as well as Appropriations Chair Matt Hatchett out of Dublin, Georgia. Did a lot of good work on this, and there's a lot of credit that needs to go around, and I know the Speaker can talk to some of his members, but I know our members work very hard in coming up with across the hallway help and everything as far as getting a consensus on what we needed the budget to look like. So appreciate the hard work, and Governor, once again, I appreciate all your hard work and delivering on everything that you said you would do in your time as governor. So with all that, I'll turn it over to Speaker Burns.
First Lady Marty Kemp, good to see you this morning. Governor Ryan Kemp, always good to see you. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Jones, for your work this session, and appreciate your friendship and working together. Colleagues, and from the executive branch as well, got some good bills we're going to sign today, Governor. Some is pretty strong, but they make me know what y'all know. It's a great day to be a Georgian, there's no doubt about that. And it's certainly a great day to celebrate yet another historic tax cut for our hardworking Georgians, our folks from.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop it there and just, as you can see, they're just talking about the bills, thanking one another, and it's great. And there's one bill that I wanted to bring up that had been passed prior to this press conference, and that was HB 350. And I actually had someone on my show, Amy Anderson, she's a sister of mine, and she actually championed going to the state legislatures, working with Republicans and Democrats to get this bill passed. And what this bill is, it is a baby box. So if someone has had a baby and they're scared and they don't know what to do, they don't want to go to the police, they don't want to go to the hospital, they can actually go to a fire station and put this baby into it's almost like a wall box, and they lay the baby there. It's very sanitary. And what it does, alerts the fire department on the other end to retrieve that child and then, move forward with proper care and services. So what this does is it eliminates babies being in dumpsters or left in, the forest or the woods or in other circumstances. So these children are going to be living. And I'm proud to say that the church that I was attending, Stockbridge Community Church in Stockbridge, Georgia, is one of the first churches to actually donate $25,000 to the Henry County Fire Department to put in one of the first baby boxes in Georgia. So with that legislation being passed, we're going to see a lot more children live as opposed to die. So very grateful for the efforts of Amy Anderson, and I just wanted to give her a shout out, as well as Stockbridge Community Church. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get into some more news and talk about, this whole gerrymandering thing and what the NAACP has to say about it. So, you know what? We will see you guys on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity, at exhilaration, it's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you so much again for joining us here online. Now, we just finished up with just some updates from the Georgia Capitol, right? And I'm glad that they've passed a lot. But before we get into our next video, what I wanted to talk about is they said, okay, we've passed this legislation to help Georgians, right? We've lowered income tax. We're going to lower the property taxes. We're just going. But there's a caveat because, see, each county and city has different needs financially, and how they make their revenue is by taxing their constituents. And so when these constituents don't see the tax breaks, they blame the state. It's not the state, it's the county and the city. So I ran this through Grok. And of course, I have my question. I said, this new legislation passed by Governor Kemp for various taxes. Do the cities and counties have to follow this new legislation, or are there loopholes, right, where they do not have to follow the legislation? And the answer is yes. Cities and counties in Georgia must follow the key mandatory provisions of this new legislation signed by Governor Kemp. There are no loopholes. Okay, cool. That allow them to opt out of the core requirements, especially on property taxes. Though one part is optional, okay, and there are ongoing constitutional challenges that could affect enforcement if successful in court. So the new legislation I'm referring to primarily is HB 463, which the governor talked about signing that one. That's Georgia Economic Growth and Tax Relief of Act of 2026. It focuses on state income tax cuts. Rate drops from 5.19% to 4.99% starting January 1st, 2026. Okay, with possible further reductions, bigger standard dependent deductions, higher retirement income exclusion, temporary exclusions for some overtime pay and tips, and repeals of certain state tax credits and sales use tax exemptions. Now, Senate Bill 33, which was another one he mentioned, is the Home Ownership Opportunity and Market Equalization Act of 2026. It was a property tax relief bill, the one that directly impacts local governments the most. So, why cities and counties must comply, no opt out, for the main rules: property tax assessment cap. So the big mandatory part of SB 33, this makes Georgia's existing base year or floating homestead exemption mandatory statewide for all cities, counties, school districts, and other local taxing authorities. It caps how much the taxable assessed value of a qualifying home can rise each year, generally limited to the inflation rate. And I'm so glad for this because, again, like I said, certain cities and counties will say, well, my budget isn't what this budget is over here because obviously might be a smaller county. We have bigger demand. But at the same time, the assessment's gone up so much that it's just unreasonable, right? So previously, under the 2024 HB 581, many local governments and schools could opt out of this cap, and a lot did. About 68% of school districts and 30% of counties. So they were getting around actually having to give people these tax breaks. Now, HB 33 eliminates that opt-out option entirely. Local governments must apply the cap. There is no loophole or local discretion to ignore it. Thank goodness. Thank you. Because I was just like, does it matter, right? What you do at the state level, is it really going to come down to the people that really need it at the county and the city level? So thank you so much for getting this passed. That's good leadership. Just saying, that's good leadership. So repealed sales tax exemptions in HB 463. Any sales use tax exemptions that were repealed now apply to both state and local sales taxes, including local option sales taxes that cities and counties collect. Local governments must follow the new statewide rules on what is taxable. Other local tax rules in the bills: state law governs how property taxes and sales taxes work in Georgia. Local governments administer and collect them, but cannot override state mandates like this. And I'm so glad. So what is optional, not mandatory, right? Local homestead option sales tax, LOHOST, new under Senate Bill 33 starting in 2028. Counties and cities, if they choose, put a 1% put a 1% local sales tax on the ballot for voters to approve. Okay, if passed, the money can only be used to fund additional homestead exemptions and reduce property taxes for qualifying homeowners. This is a tool to help offset any local revenue loss from the assessment cap, but no local government is required to adopt it, right? So it's something that further helps, but they don't have to do it. But they cannot get out of, raising people's property taxes and all that stuff. I'm so glad. So potential challenges, loopholes that could arise later. Okay, these are some of the caveats, right? Constitutional challenges. Critics, including some Democratic lawmakers, argue SB 33 is unconstitutional because revenue raising bills must originate in the House, not the Senate. There are also procedural complaints about HB 463. These challenges are ongoing, but have not invalidated the laws yet. So cities and counties must comply for now. If a court strikes it down, parts of SB 33, the mandatory cap could potentially go away. What's wrong if you're actually capping things to help people? See, Democrats, you love debt. You love debt. You don't know how to be fiscally responsible. It's ridiculous. Because the one thing they want to complain about is he has an $18 billion surplus. You say it like it's a bad thing. What's wrong with you? It's weird. It's so weird. So the revenue impact. Many local officials and school districts are concerned the assessment cap will reduce their property tax revenue. Why are you going after people's why are you going after people? Schools. Then our babies can't read. And they're walking out of class, protesting. What are you doing? I'm going to talk about that part. Okay. Especially in fast growing areas. Like I said, it's the areas, right? It depends on the spending that people have, how they're going to go about this and really be upset about it or not. So they may need to cut services, raise millage rates where allowed, or use optional low host sales taxes. The law itself does not cap overall property tax collections, just the per home assessed value increase, because they were increasing people's values of their home so they could increase the taxes. But some of them were disproportionate. So what are you doing? Why do you need all this money? Why does local government need all this money to function? You don't need it. Because if you look at some of your cities, they are hovels. And we'll talk about DeKalb County, first of all, and the city of Decatur. There are parts of Decatur that looks like a bomb went off, and then there are other parts of Decatur that look great. Why is that? What is going on with your local government? And you keep crying that you need more money, and your city's getting worse, not getting better. Huh? What are you doing with the money? See, I look at results. And when I don't see the results and you keep begging for money, that's a problem. Because that means you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Stop taking people's money. Use what you have and actually use less. Get a surplus going, but make your city look better. And so you're never able to do that because you don't know how to spend money. You don't know how to work the government properly so it works for the people. All you know how to do is sit back and go on vacations and use the money and hire it for your friends and give your friends contracts. And I'm not saying this like, I'll say allegedly, but you've seen reports where people are constantly going to jail, constantly under investigation for misappropriating funds. What are you fussing about? Now, no other widespread loopholes have been reported in the final bill. Local governments cannot simply ignore the mandatory homestead exemption cap. The laws are very new, right? 9 days ago. So your specific city, county like St. Mary's, Camden, because that's where I'm at, has not yet issued detailed guidance on implementation for the 2026 tax year. Can look at the Georgia Department of Revenue, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I'm just saying, what Democrats will do is they'll be like, yeah, well, they say they're gonna, that they've lowered it, but see, it's not happening. Yeah, because you are raising the assessment because there's certain things that you still don't have to follow, and you can pull the money from other places. So where people could be getting relief, they're not getting relief because their local government is in their pocket in the wrong way, saying we need it for this, we need it for that, but the results aren't there. So I implore people, especially in the state of Georgia, in cities that are in a deficit, go to your local governments and ask, why are we in a deficit? Where's the money going? Because I don't see it, because there's holes in the road. The buildings are falling apart. The businesses are leaving. What are you doing with the money that you're getting from the taxes? Yeah, it's time to start really asking those hard questions of these local officials at the county and the city level. Because at the state level, they're doing the work to give relief to Georgians. But your county commissioners and your city councilmen and your mayors, yeah, they're not doing their job. And it's your job as a citizen to make sure they do their job. So go to the meetings, ask the questions, ask for the budgets, line items. You want to see everything and have them explain things that don't make sense. And if they can't, vote them out. If you can't explain yourself, get out of office. We don't need you. We don't want you. Find something else to do. But get up off of people's pockets, because, we need responsible humans in these positions. Now, this last article I wanted to look at, I guess it's the president of the NAACP, and he's talking about the gerrymandering with the Supreme Court. And it's, like I said, it's really funny because, see, the whole thing with the Voting Rights Act, it was like, okay, you can't discriminate based on race. Well, then they decided to make all of these maps based on race. And now the Supreme Court is like, you can't do it based on race. It never should have been that way in the first place. But, here we are.
Alabama Governor Kay Ivey is pushing back primaries for 4 congressional districts following Monday's Supreme Court decision, allowing the state to use a 2023 map with only 1 majority black district. The decision came after another high-profile Supreme Court decision that struck down a Louisiana congressional map, saying the state relied too heavily on race when it drew a second majority-minority district. Other states, including South Carolina and Mississippi, are also looking to redraw their maps based on that ruling. President and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, joins us now. Thank you for being here. What's your reaction to the Supreme Court decisions impacting Alabama and Louisiana and the removal of these majority black districts?
I think history will account for this decision as one of the worst Supreme Court decisions in history. It ranks for us equivalent to Dred Scott decision in the 1800s, where the court said blacks had no rights, whites were bound to uphold. Plessy versus Ferguson, which legalized separate but equal. Things were definitely separate but never equal. And this decision will rank among those. But the fact that this court refused to acknowledge that we have in this country, particularly in southern states, consistent approaches of racism, particularly in electoral politics, and would allow states to have license to discriminate against African Americans is unconscionable, to say the least.
Monday, we had on Wall Street Journal columnist Jason Riley on this program. He was supportive of the ruling. I want to play a bit of what he said.
I think this whole thinking behind the Voting Rights Act and racial gerrymandering that suggest that only black officials can represent black constituencies is way out of date. In fact, today, most of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus do not hail from majority black districts.
What's your response?
First of all, why is it illegal in the South, particularly former Confederate states? If African Americans had 60% black districts, somehow it's illegal, but white members of Congress can have 60% white districts. It is unconscionable to say that that should remain the same. Racial bloc voting in this country, particularly in the southern region of this country, is still the prevailing way in which people participate. Policymakers seek to undermine the voices of African Americans, and African Americans are citizens of this country and should be entitled to equal protection under the law. And this court, in my opinion, is violating the spirit of the Constitution.
What do you say to people who say, look, my vote is being stripped away, so why bother?
Well, you know, our vote is our currency, and we must collectively deposit our currency. Unfortunately, this country is with the leading democracy. Far too many American citizens participate. Less than 60% of our eligible voters participate. That's not a leading democracy when Australia, over 95% of eligible voters participate, or Canada, about 92%, Germany, 93%. We need to open up access to voting and to ensure that all citizens can cast an effective ballot.
Derek Johnson, thank you.
Okay, this is, he's interesting. He's interesting because the NAACP, they don't care about black people. They haven't never cared about black people. It was never about the American Negro. So whenever I see someone from the NAACP, it makes me gag. It's just disgusting because you make it about race. And then when you're called out on it, you want to run, tell, and hide. Like, oh, no, what are you talking about? You're coming after us. It's like, shut up. This is so dumb. Really? This is worse than Dred Scott. No, it's not. Dred Scott is how we got the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Stop it. We are still in a country, again, like I said, under the First Amendment, it says all men are created equal. And then we have several rights for the American Negro, descendants of slaves. You have civil rights, but everybody else has the First Amendment. Or do we all have it? Make it make sense. It doesn't. We've got to square this so we can stop these ideological arguments. Because my skin color should have nothing to do with me being treated equally. But here we are, over 200 years later. Here we are. And no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to have a real conversation about it. They just want to hide behind, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And stop that. Stop it. Okay. So I wanted to break this down a little bit. So the Supreme Court ruling in Louisiana, April 29th, 6-3 along ideological lines. Again, ideological. So here's the simple outline of the ruling. So Louisiana drew a congressional map with 2 majority districts to comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, right? Challengers, non-Black voters, sued, calling it an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. The state used race too heavily as the main factor in drawing lines, violating the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Okay. So the court's holding, the conservative majority ruled that creating a second majority Black district was not required by the VRA, using race as the predominant factor, even to help minority voters, is presumptively unconstitutional unless it meets strict scrutiny, a very high bar. States cannot justify race-based districting just by saying the VRA made us do it, if the map otherwise complies with the law. So key effect on VRA Section 2. The ruling sharply narrows Section 2's use of redistricting. It makes it much harder to force states to draw additional majority-minority districts where racial minorities have a strong chance to elect their preferred candidates. Critics, including the 3 liberal justices in dissent, say it effectively guts much of the VRA's remaining power in this area, while defenders call it a colorblind approach that prevents racial favoritism. So this builds on the 2019 Rucho versus Common Cause decision, which said federal courts cannot review pure partisan gerrymandering claims, drawing maps to help one political party, right? Together, they give states wide latitude for partisan maps as long as they avoid overt racial predominance. And here's the thing, they're always like, well, we need Black leadership in Black districts. But here's the thing, some of these people, they're not American Negroes, so they don't care. They don't care. They're melanated. They're from other countries. So they, to the point of the representative in Florida, the congressman in Florida, he's like, they're representing their countries first. They're not representing Americans first. So it really shouldn't matter who leads your district. If you want someone who is an American Negro to lead, get them into office. No matter the district you're in, get them into office if that's what your passion is. But collectively, you shouldn't be cornered into one area, right? Map wise to say, okay, here's where I'll be safe. No, you're not. Stop that. This is about politics. And race is being used as a weapon, and it needs to stop. Because you cannot keep making people victims and then say, stand up and fight for your rights. But you're still a victim. Make a decision. This is stupid at this juncture. At this juncture, in this time in our nation's history, in the United States, this is dumb. Actually, see what this is about, in my opinion, this is about Americans and people who came over here illegally that need to go home. And people who got naturalized and shouldn't be, because they are not about being an American. They're about serving the purpose of their country first, using American resources. They need to go. We need to have mass denaturalization and deportations of a lot of people here because they've involved themselves in our politics. They've involved themselves in this country to try to destroy it. And I'm over it. I am over it. Okay? So here's how it might affect the midterms. Immediate impact. Republican-controlled state legislatures, especially in the South, are rushing to redraw congressional and state legislative maps to reduce majority-minority districts and create more GOP-leaning seats. Examples include moves in Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. Potential seat shifts. Analysts estimate this could help Republicans gain several additional House seats. Estimates range from a handful of less than 12 to 19 in aggressive scenarios, making it easier for the GOP to hold or expand their narrow majority despite other headwinds. Now, timing challenges. Many states have primaries already underway, ours are, or imminent. Some are delaying primaries or rushing special sessions to implement new maps before 2026. Courts often avoid mid-cycle changes close to elections, but the ruling has accelerated activity, right? So fewer competitive districts, more safe seats overall, increasing polarization, dilution of minority voting power, especially Black voters who lean heavily Democrat, as majority minority districts decrease. And some of these are decreasing with Black voters because they're realizing that the Democratic Party does not care about the American Negro. You care about ideological, issues. You care about cult issues, but you don't care about American Negroes. You only bring up American Negroes when you need to use us for your benefit. Let's bring in the victimhood so everybody can feel sorry for us as a party. Stop it. If you do your job, people will vote for you. If you don't do your job, people will not vote for you. It's real simple. And if you're not going to represent people as an American citizen first and get jobs for Americans done first, then you shouldn't be in office. I am sick and tired of hearing anything about race. It's not about race anymore, it's about lineage. And yes, people are delineating. That's a thing. Newsflash. All people running for political office. I don't care what your melanation, understand that people are done with this nonsense. Over it. We've got members of city officials saying, Karen Bass, for example, she was asked, would you allow non-citizens to vote at the local level? And she was like, well, it depends. No, ma'am, it doesn't depend. They're not citizens. They can't vote. But you're saying if they're here on a temporary status or something, they should be able to vote? Really? They're here on vacation on a visa and they just so happen to be here during our elections. They can vote in our elections. Are you kidding me right now? But this is what the Democrats want to do. This is what they want to do. This needs to be stopped. So the bottom line, the ruling gives states, particularly GOP-led ones, right, more freedom to draw maps favoring their party as long as they frame it as partisan rather than racial. This is fueling a new wave of mid-decade redistricting fights focused on the 2026 midterms and beyond. Outcomes will vary by state, laws, courts, and politics. So here's the deal. Like in Virginia, they were like, okay, we're going to wipe away all the Republicans and only have one. I think it's like a 10-1 situation. I'm like, is that true? What is the percentage of your state that voted Republican? Because that's what your map should look like. Your map should reflect the last election, and that would have been the last presidential election. That's what your maps should look like. So if you have what people would call like a purple state, right? It should look that way. It shouldn't be more red or more blue. It should look purple. And that's what the representation should look like, because it should be based on the votes, not on anything of melanation, I will say. Because see, they keep throwing people in to the race game. They can't play the race game. If you're not white and you're not black, you're not an American Negro, pretty much, because that's who black people are referred to, then what are you doing? People from the Caribbean can't play the race game. Just because you're melanated doesn't make you black. You're not black. You're not an American Negro. You can't play the race game. People from Africa, you can't play the race game. Okay? People from Germany, you're not white, you're German. You cannot play the race game. If you are not an American WASP, you don't get to play the race game. Like, what are we talking about? Like, the race game needs to be over. It's a caste system. It's old, it's played, and it needs to be dissolved because it's not working. It's working against you. Okay? It's working against you. Just let it go. Just let it go. Right? So with that, I'm going to end the broadcast for today for Women in Wellness Wednesday. Tomorrow, I will be back with Mighty Men Thursday. It will be open mic. I didn't get any requests for open mic. I was out looking for them, but nobody wanted to be on the show today. So that's right. We might have some guests back on tomorrow. I'm ramping back up because I've been off for a week, just getting situated in my new digs here in Camden County. So I appreciate you guys. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. And we will see you in the next one.